I'm Richard Rose, Director of Finance and Information and a consultant trainer with Pierce Mayfield, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about Obashi. Is it a Japanese production methodology? No. Is it a Star Wars character? No. Is it an Eastern martial art? And the answer to that is no. It's basically a methodology, a way, if you like, of viewing your organisation from top to bottom. It looks at the ownership of certain artefacts within the organisation, how those artefacts are then used by various processes, business processes. Those business processes then work out that they need some applications. Those applications run on a particular system software setup. That system software will then run on hardware. The hardware will eventually be attached to it, to each other by some infrastructure. So Obashi actually is ownership, business process, application, system software, hardware, and infrastructure. And basically you draw these layers out and you work out how your business works. And you can do it at various levels. You can do it at portfolio level. So you get a big picture of how the whole operation is strung together. Then you can drop it down, and if you're into a program or even a project, you can use Obashi to then bring that detail down to a level where your business analysts, your technical analysts can start to map out exactly what the change is going to be. So it gives you clarity and it gives you vision. And once you've got your clarity and your vision, then you can develop and then you can improve. So that's the start of it. Where can it be used? Well, I've mentioned portfolio management, I've mentioned project and program management, but it's top to bottom, side to side within the organisation. It's a way of mapping the whole thing. And if you have developed your strategy and you do know what you want to do, you can then use it as a route map to work out which bits of the strategy you can then deliver before any other parts, which bits are more cost effective to deliver than other parts, whether you're going to put pressure on the organisation at certain points. Now, for those of you who are used to ITIL, you'll probably be thinking, yeah, but I've got a configuration management database, a CMDB, that keeps all of this stuff. But has it? Has it got all of it in there? I will almost guarantee that if you've got a good config management database, you've probably got the bottom 4 layers. But does the config management database really understand where the application then interfaces with the business process? Do we, within configuration management, understand the data flow through those systems, and therefore which systems are most impacted when there happens to be some latency or failure within the whole of the enterprise? And then on top of that, we may have some call signals, if you like, from our ITIL service delivery function, service management function, which alerts us to say a particular application is down, therefore you phone this particular user group or department. But with Obashi, you split those applications down across processes. So finance might use a particular application, but then sales do as well. And maybe order processing does. And maybe part of it's done in your warehouse or out on your shop floor. So you do need the whole thing strung together to get a proper picture. Who uses the information? Well, I've talked about our program and project managers. But what about the business managers out there? What about those who are going to employ the new ways of working to improve their department and their flow and hopefully reduce costs, make things simpler, make things smarter? They'll be able to use these pictures not only to understand how it works, but they'll also be able to use them as a resource for communication. And right at the top of the tree, your CEO, your CFO, they'll be wanting to understand where they need to put their investment and how they're going to get a return on that investment. And Obashi will allow you to do all of those sorts of things. So ultimately, we've got a set of things and drawings around that can start to underpin or put a foundation in place for our development of our change going forward into the future. What will it allow us to do? Finally, let's have a look at some simple benefits. Well, if we have mapped the business properly, we can find areas where there's waste, where there's duplication, maybe duplication of IT product. What about latency? Where can we find that? What about resilience in the system? You suddenly find that highly important or sensitive data is now running through part of a system which has a single point of failure in it. How do we get our failover straight? Because that single piece of data is now flowing through that particular part of our system. We ought to be able to manage our projects more efficiently. Let's go back to portfolio for a moment. Portfolio management is all about scheduling your programs, your projects, your initiatives, so that they flow nicely through the organization. You don't get bottlenecks. You don't hit the same department time after time and therefore get change fatigue. With Obashi, what you can do is you can identify the areas that you want to change and then just make sure that you don't keep hitting those same areas. Pictorially, it's much easier to view. I've mentioned ITIL. If you actually deliver a more robust service to your service management team, they can then deliver a more robust service to the user population. And that has to be a positive. Business continuity, disaster recovery. We have business continuity and disaster recovery features that have to be fulfilled within our business environment. What we can do with Obashi is identify all the necessary components and people with business continuity that need the protection and the planning that goes around both business continuity planning and disaster recovery planning. We can see it all within the Obashi model. And finally, you should be able to link all your IT assets to an owner. And if you're into costing and pricing your IT, and therefore making sure that various departments who use that IT pay for their appropriate use, then you need that ownership. And the ownership layer will indicate who owns which slices down through the picture and how much data they're pushing through, and therefore you can cost your data and therefore cost your business. So Obashi defines who owns things. It allows us to understand specific business processes. There are particular applications that are used by those processes across departments. There's certain system software that we need, and that runs on particular hardware. And then finally, how it all attaches is through your infrastructure. That's Obashi. And it works. We use it in PS Mayfield. We've helped people use it in our client sites. Just a quick word about Obashi. Thank you very much.